So, okay, another question. Wait a second.
Which one?
I'm reading questions in random order, so
yes, that's why the list on me is different. Let's go with the first one.
Okay. Are there any plans for a physical release of Tales from the King's Court? I know there were some issues in the past, but I think most fans that participated in the crowdfunding would still be interested in buying a physical copy of the album to support the upcoming release. Okay. So first thing first, because of the things that I mentioned before, of the death and relocation, Tales from the King's Court production halted because I had to close my company in Turkey, which had the pressing rights, legal pressing rights from the Ministry of Culture, etc., all that stuff, and manufacturing had to be done with the proper paperwork. And then I relocated here, and I had to, have other priorities like taking care of the family, setting up life, etc. It stopped, and therefore I said, by the way, we sent all the contributor packages to the contributors who opted in for the T-shirt package, the demo CDs package, etc. The only thing that was missing was the actual album CD, which I want to press. So my promise was, and it still is, that when we are pressing the third album, we will press the second one as well, and then it will be ready. But here, I think we have to give people some insight about the costs of making an album so that they will know that how that crowdfunding, etc. things work. So that crowdfunding campaign was like to cover a partial cost. It was, I think it generated around $1,500 something US dollars at the time, or euros at the time. And it, to be honest, that only covers like the artworks and booklets of an album. An album like Maegi, which is not an ultra triple A production, costs around $15,000 to $20,000 to make, including mixing, mastering, artworks, pressing, recording, editings, guest artist studio fees, etc. When you collect all those and the equipment fees, etc., logistic expenses, it costs around $20,000 to make something like that. An album like Reverse, for example,
it costs like that if you manage everything very precisely.
Yes, exactly. And we will. I don't want to brag about this, but I'm a really good budget manager in that sense, because all our lives we had to manage everything by like this. We try to, confine things within certain expenses. We sacrifice from certain quality elements. We sacrifice from certain things that we plan to do but we cannot because of that cost restraints. An album like Reversing Time, for example, it costed double the amount of that, because even the orchestra was like 10,000 euros or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. This was like 12 years ago. Even to record that part, just the orchestra's fee, not the orchestra's engineering fee, not the mixing, etc., editing, just the violinists, cellists, and the conductor doing, not the transcribers, etc. So this thing costs money, and the reality.
And they kind of volunteered and took their prices to the minimum.
That they cut prices nowadays. I mean, nowadays you can find orchestras of that size for 10 to 15,000 euros. Can record, but that's the orchestra. Recording that orchestra is another process. It's a different process. When you add all these things, it costs money. Now, there's another question related to this, and I will answer this. I mean, you jump in, chime in as well. But since I did the label relations for most of the time, me and Emrecan did the label relations with AFM and EMI and all that stuff. And after that, I self-published albums. I kind of know the accounting side of things a little at the back. So I will give you a picture of why things are the way they are in means of income generation, why bands are doing things that they are doing because of the situation of the industry. So yes, the short answer, after saying all this, yes, we will release that album, because I know my listeners, my faithful listeners, thank you. And now Onur's faithful listeners as well, thank you for supporting this. I know you want to have that CD in your hands, but believe me when I say I wanted more than you do, because it's my blood, sweat, and tears. I want to see that in my hands as well. So yes, that will happen, but it will happen when we are probably when we are releasing the third album, and we haven't talked about the budgeting. Well, we talked about it a little, but I'm still doing the details of the budgeting. We will decide on how to approach to this when that budgeting is ready. Another question is, Onur, if you have anything to chime in about this, please chime in. By the way, like that 40 pizzas, that costs money as well when you're recording an orchestra. So yeah, even catering is a big cost. So yeah. They also
Next. Sorry.
related to this. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So let me ask you, is there a possibility for guest singers on the third Maegi album?
Yes. I mean, that's the since our sojourn, Dreamtone sojourn album, we are always having guests on our CDs. That was partially, it started as a fun idea. Then it also had this positive effects of getting our name out there as well. And also it turned out to be a big motivating factor for us as well. Like, I don't know you, Onur, but for me, being able to be on the same disc with legends like John Oliver, Hansi Kirsch, Chris Boltendahl, Tom Engelund, that's a huge ego boost and positive effect on my artistic side. And I want to do things because it makes me genuinely happy to see those people performing my art. And the good thing is that they actually want to take part. They see what we create interesting enough or professional enough or whatever, feasible enough to take part in it. It's not just like they're singing on a random demo. So that also encourages me to go forward and improve myself. I was talking to Hansi Kirsch from Blind Guardian the other day, and I realized how lucky I am, how privileged I am to be able to create these connections and do these things. And for that matter, as long as we can do, I would always try and feature people that we love on our discs. What do you think?
I think that's always been a part of Neverland also, Maegi. Not so much Dreamtone maybe, but that was in the founding idea of Neverland.
Exactly.
And I know that it's an important part of Maegi as well.
Yeah, it's fun. And what we did is, since the day one, we tried not to pick people by their popularity because we didn't want this to turn into a promotion ploy. But we pick people. Our artist picking is usually like, drinking lots of beer, listening to our favorite tracks, music, and then saying that, hey, what if this person actually said yes to sing on one of our songs? And it always started like this. That's why we always have people that we love their work. And all of our guest artists, you ask me their name and I can immediately give you a song I love from their discography, an album that I love, a gig that I love. Like we say Edu Falashi from Angra, and I remember listening to Temple of Shadows, and beautiful album. I remember when we say Zach Stevens, I have all his Circle to Circle discs here signed. I have all the Sabotage discography. I mean, it's always like that for us. I think that's what made our songs work well from a guest artist perspective. What do you think about this? How do you pick the names? For me, it was like this. How did you pick the names that we were picking? Because it was a voting thing when we picked.
It was pretty much the same, I think, but the only difference is most of the names that I picked said no to us, remember?
That's another thing.
It's not always a go,
Yeah.
Sometimes people just don't want to participate for different reasons.
It can happen for a variety of reasons. They may hate your music. They may see you as a small timer. They may have schedule conflicts. They may have, you remember the time when we were recording Reversing Time? Hansi had to reschedule his recording 6 times.
Yes, I do.
And even his studio rooftop got destroyed in a storm. That like one in a lifetime event happening in Germany, and it hit their studio. And then in the very last minute, he was able to record To Lose the Sun just by the chance Axel Rudipel, the guitar player, was having his recordings in another studio, and he finished early. And his engineer was Charlie Barfind, who is also the Blind Guardian's engineer. And then they booked a session there, and he kind of, slipped into Axel Rudipel's session extras and then recorded the song there. So sometimes it's hard to get things, work. It happens. And when we have like 5 artists on our disc, we usually reach out to 10 or 12. And it's sometimes, it sometimes works, sometimes it does not. That's how things are. But we were pretty much, I would say that we were like 60%, 70% successful in picking the artists and working with them. So that's a huge number. Yeah. So yeah, there will be guests. At least we're planning to have guests. But now that there's a pandemic going on, next year we'll probably have this thing recorded next year, and we don't know how those artists will be performing next year. Will they be stuck at home? Will they be touring? So that will also shape the nature of things. Okay, next question. I'm lost. Okay, this question. Will there be a box set like Sky's Fall for Maegi 3 Slow Motion Suicide? The answer to that is this is the question that I will tie to the release of the previous album question. The box set relies heavily on the financial success of things. Like if enough people are willing to buy it, why not? But then again, it costs to produce such things. And the reality is nowadays, most people either want to buy collector's editions, which costs money. So then you have to hit a certain break-even point to be able to justify the costs or acceptable losses. Or people listen music through YouTube or Spotify or iTunes, whatever, and then the income sucks. For example, I think we have close to 2 million views of Neverland and Maegi on YouTube in various channels. And the income it generates for us, not for the label, but for us, it's like, what, $100, $200, something like that. So that's peanuts. 2 million views, 2 million views should generate more, but it does not. The same with Spotify. For example, our Spotify plays are quite good for a band like that. Let's say Maegi had a very small number. It had like 9,000 listeners, something like that, 9,000 something listeners last year, or tracks last year. It didn't generate anything at all, like very small amounts, because streaming does not pay you. Streaming makes Spotify rich, or the platform rich. The labels, they make money by having lots of artists and tracks on those platforms, and then they reap whatever they can. They also write off their expenses, etc. Lots of accounting tricks and not tricks, they're legal things, go into play there. So for these things to happen, people need to buy merchandise, people need to buy the actual CDs or the box sets. That's the only way to justify these things. That's why bands rely on going live. So they make money from the stage performance, and they also make money from the merchandise sales. Most of them actually sell cash-only merchandise gigs, if you notice. That's also to reduce costs, sometimes to sell without paying taxes, etc. So it's a hard business nowadays. And if our listeners are willing to see us create more, because we want to create more, there would be nothing more fun, I don't know if you agree, than to create a new box set with lots of goodies, like an LP, collector's edition, whatever, something like that. It's fun, it's art, and we keep these art in our homes as monuments of our career, of our life, of our dedication as well. So if you want something, know that we also want that as well, but it costs money, and that money has to come from somewhere. If we win the lottery, I promise you, you will see the best box set ever. But I have to win the lottery for that. So yeah, that's the thing. Do you remember I will not give the company name, but it was one of the big four labels that they gave us a bad check back in the day. You remember that? We even had that in 2005. The check was bad, and then we had to track them and find the money, and it's a monkey business. Yeah. So did we cover all the questions? One more question. There's one more question. Two more questions. Sorry. Three more questions. Fuck, I'm very bad at this. Sorry.
One is evident, I think.
Yeah, one of those. Will Maegi tour? Let's do that. No idea.
Yeah.
It's hard at the moment. It's not easy. But, well, I mean, yeah, when planes are actually flying without you risking yourself dying, other than the plane crashing, is maybe we can do a few gigs if Onur comes here, or I go there with some session people. But a tour-like thing, that's I don't not at the moment at least. I don't see that happening at least for the time being. Maybe in the future, who knows? You never know.
You changed the order again. He skipped to the last question, and now he's coming back.
I do that. I'm sorry. My mind is like in 5 different places at the same time. So, okay, Onur, name your favorite albums.
Name your favorite. All-time favorite is probably Metallica's Black Album.
Okay.
And maybe Iron Human Equation.
Yeah.
And
I think you buying the collector's edition for that.
Definitely In Flames Clayman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe Queen Strike, Operation Mindcrime.
Oh, okay. So 4. Okay, I will pick 4 as well. You have one more?
No, you thought that.
Yeah, let's make it 5. You said 4.
Yeah, 5. 5 could be maybe. I don't know. Pain of Salvation, probably. And the album would be one of the later ones, Skarsik.
Okay. If you thought it about this much, then it wasn't on that list. Yeah. So for me, Blind Guardian's Nightfall in Middle Earth is 1. Sabotage, Handful of Rain is another one. I will pick Iron Maiden, Summer in Time. That was actually my first ever music record that I bought. Well, actually, my aunt bought that one because I was 7. It was 1989, and I'm kind of Bruce Dickinson's Chemical Wedding is another very important one for me, and I think another one for me is Evergray's The Inner Circle. There are others, but at the moment, the one that when you ask me this question, these are popping into my mind. So yeah, those are my 5. Okay, I think we have one more question and then we are done. This is actually quite
This was supposed to be the first question, if it's about us doing how we're doing in pandemic. So
yeah, but I jump around. I'm sorry. It's yeah. I will edit these. No, I will not edit these, but because it's we didn't fuck up too much. So I think it's okay. If people don't want to watch it, they can delete the video. So how are you doing during the pandemic? How are you doing during the pandemic?
I think during the pandemic I get to see you more than the last few years.
Yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think that's a good thing in terms of.
You don't need to answer that to my face. It's okay.
I think it's created this kind of space in which we have time and space to think about what we are doing, what we should be doing, where we want to be. So
self-reflection was something that actually a lot of people had in this pandemic. People had time to be with themselves, be with their minds, listen to their souls. God, I'm sounding poetic now, but
unless you go bankrupt, I think there's no problem with it.
Actually, I'm working more now that there's a pandemic. My job actually increased. I'm sorry for those who have lost their jobs or laid off, even though it's like temporary. Mine increased because they laid off everyone else. That someone else has to stay. I can't do the stuff. That was my luck, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I'm working a lot. Actually, just after this interview, I have to do a shift, help with some of my tutors to complete their shifts. So yeah, That's something. But also, I think you're right. It gave me the time to think about my art and, ask myself the questions. It was like I was understand. Wow, Windows has something to say. Yeah. So yeah, I was composing music since I came here, but it was like, it was dull. It was like dead because it was aimless. Now I found that aim again thanks to this pandemic. But we are artists, you and I, we like all art people who are into arts, you need an emotional push, whether it be a positive one, negative one, weird one, but you need that emotional turmoil to be able to create. That's what fuels our creativity. So I think this pandemic gave us the chance to, you know, listen to ourselves and maybe even hear our demons or angels or whatever, if you believe in that shit. I believe in the demons. So yeah.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, I think it helped us to be more creative. I'm thinking that I'm more creative nowadays. I'm finishing compositions. I'm about to finish my third book. Actually, I finished the book. I'm editing it at the moment. So I'm creative, and I want to do more and more and more. There are times that I don't want to go to bed. Which is something that I was lacking in the last 3 years. I don't know. Well, yeah, I know a lot of people died in this pandemic, and that's really, really sad. But it's also that's also something that filled the album's name, Slow Motion Suicide, as well. Like how we face with things about our lives. This album will feature something like that. I am only giving you the name. Omar and I talked about the artwork, etc., song names, a lot of things, but we're only giving you the name for now because in case we fuck it up and cannot release, at least we will keep the whole surprise. Yeah. Okay. You have any questions, Honor? You have anything that you want to cover?
No, I think I'm okay. It's actually turned out a lot more detailed than I imagined
Yeah,
it
yeah,
would.
yeah. I was thinking the same, but I talk a lot. I talk too much. I know. It's
Good
my,
thing.
it's my,
Good thing I'm a singer.
yeah. Sometimes my wife tells me that, yeah, you talk too much in a fun way, and then I stop whenever we're hanging out with friends for like 10 minutes, and then people start to realize something weird is going on. So
Something's wrong.
yeah, it's
Ah,
noticeable. So yeah, let's. One thing that came to my mind that no one asked, but I think it's a good thing to answer because people will eventually start asking, is the calendar, album calendar. What do we talk like? We said we will probably be done with the compositions by the end of this year,
yes, yes. And
and
I
then
think
we
it's
start recording demos, and then the actual guest artist thing. So I'm guessing we will probably start recording demos in early 2021 if we don't die from this pandemic. And
mhm.
then guest artist relations will take the whole first half of the year, and then we'll probably record in the summer, right? Next summer.
Yeah, I imagine
Yeah, give or take. So
that's
the release will be next year, by the end of next year, probably, if everything goes right according to plan. Yep, that's that. So thank you for if you survived up until this, part of this interview. Thank you for watching it, and hopefully we'll see you again soon with other updates. And
yeah. Thank you for the questions. I was honestly a little concerned that people may have forgotten us already, so it's
I
nice to
think
see.
we managed to convince a few people that we are actually worthwhile to listen. Yeah, no, I know Maegi fans actually they are quite supportive. Sometimes I'm silent for about a year and they still email and message me, which is a nice thing. Dreamtone people are actually still emailing me and messaging me, or Instagram as well. That's nice. That's fun. I mean, we didn't release anything with Dreamtone since 2012, Neverland 2010, and people are still asking about that. That's actually nice. I'm thankful for that. Yeah. So yeah, okay. So take
Okay.
care, people. Have a nice one. Yeah.